Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka nabina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. Assalamu alaikum and good morning, Instagram fam, friends and followers of As-Safi. Thank you for getting up with me. Thank you for joining me for another installment in our overarching series, Revert Reflections, and our series for this week under the theme, Practical Means and Methods to Hang On and Hang In when Your Faith is Being Tested. And this week's theme was kind of an extension of last week when we talked about our shahada, our pact with Allah. Don't break your pact with Allah. We wanted to talk about the practical means, because many people say, hey, I get everything you're saying and I know I have to remain committed, but sometimes it becomes difficult and I need some practical means that will facilitate that. And so we're going to talk about the third practical means or third practical method for remaining steadfast, hanging on, hanging in. And that is actively seeking knowledge of the religion. Brothers and sisters, whenever we accept or follow something, but simultaneously lack thorough knowledge of it, that circumstance makes it easy for our minds to be changed. Just think about it. You hear something in passing, you read something in an article, and it makes sense to you. So you say, yeah, I believe in that. I'm able to embrace that. And then you meet someone and have a discussion with them about that, and they have a lot more knowledge about the subject, not necessarily accurate knowledge, but a lot more knowledge about the subject than you. And they start saying, no, it's not like that because of this, that, and the third. And what do you end up doing? You end up questioning the opinion you've adopted, and in many cases you end up adopting their opinion. And this is not just true for secular information, but can also be true for spiritual information, for our faith. That if we don't really know our faith with some depth, with some breadth, then people can come and cast doubts on our faith and make us begin to what? Begin to question it. And one of the things that makes it difficult for many Muslims, whether they be new Muslims or old Muslims, to remain committed to their faith is their lack of conviction. That when they lack that conviction, when they lack that certainty, they know that they were born Muslim. They've always been Muslim. And their family's always been Muslim. And the society they live in has always been Muslim. Or they know that they read some things about Islam and they were intrigued by it. They were attracted to it. Many things made sense, but they don't have a thorough knowledge of it. They lack what? They lack conviction. And that lack of conviction is what puts them in a situation where at times it becomes difficult for them to what? To remain committed. And we have to understand, brothers and sisters, that conviction and certainty are the byproducts of studying. Actively seeking knowledge, actively seeking to educate ourselves about our religion, to find answers to commonly asked questions, and to find responses to those spacious arguments and dubious assertions that people make to cast doubt upon Islam. We look and actively seek. People are saying this about Islam. They're saying this about the Prophet Muhammad. They're saying this about the Quran. How does Islam respond to that? We find those responses. We see how Islam convincingly refutes the people who cast doubt upon it. And that makes us what? Even more convinced that we're upon the truth. And this is why, because certainty, because conviction, because they are inseparably linked to studying, learning, seeking knowledge. This is why our beloved Prophet ﷺ, he made actively seeking knowledge of the religion, actively seeking religious knowledge, he made it a religious obligation and not an optional decision. He didn't leave it up to the Muslims to decide whether or not they want to study their deen or not. But he said, no, if you're a Muslim, you have to study. He said in the hadith collected by Ibn Majah on the authority of Anas, he said, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيضَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ. He said, seeking knowledge is obligatory upon every Muslim. And it doesn't mean that every Muslim has to become a scholar. But it does mean that every Muslim has to seek that level of knowledge that will give him conviction, that will give him certainty. He has to seek that level of knowledge which will make him able to practice his religion correctly. So now, if you understand this, brothers and sisters, that certainty and conviction are inseparably linked to what? To seeking knowledge, to learning your religion with some thoroughness, then we have to also understand that if we go days, if we go an extended period of time without reading, without studying, without listening to a lecture on a pertinent topic, taking notes, and actively trying to implement what we have learned in our lives, if this is our reality, something is wrong. So we are exposed. If we do this, if we're not the people who actively try to learn something about our religion every day, that will increase us in conviction. If we're like that, if that's our condition, then we have to understand that we are exposing our faith to doubt. We are exposing ourselves to a lack of conviction that could result in us not finding the strength to hang on and hang in when our faith is being tested. Why is that, brothers and sisters? It's because Iman, in many ways, is like a tree. And every tree has roots. And the further those roots go into the ground, the bigger they are, the stronger they are, the more they grasp onto the soil, the harder it is when the winds blow for that tree to be uprooted. And if you look at the tree of faith and you look at those roots, you ask yourself, well, what nourishes those roots? What makes them big and strong? It's knowledge. The more we know, the more we study, the more we learn and gain conviction, the more those roots grow big and strong and grasp onto the soil. So when the winds of the tests and trials of life blow, our faith remains firmly rooted in our hearts. And that's why we have to seek knowledge, brothers and sisters. And this is where many of us, if we're honest with ourselves, if we take a step back and do some introspection, if we're thinking about breaching our covenant with Allah, if we've thought about breaching our covenant with Allah, if we have breached our covenant with Allah, but we're thinking about coming back, somebody shared this video with us and saying, hey man, think about the decision you made. People who are in these circumstances have to admit that what contributed to that, or at least part of what contributed to that, is that they didn't study, they didn't learn, they didn't gain a certain depth and breadth of the religion. And as a consequence, they lacked the conviction. So when the test came, their tree was easily uprooted. Let's avoid, brothers and sisters, our tree being uprooted. Let's actively seek knowledge of our religion. Let's try to learn something about the deen every day from credible sources, mind you. And let's make ourselves from the people who hang on and hang in when our faith is being tested. More on this topic, inshallah, tomorrow. Until then, brothers and sisters, may Allah bless your day. May Allah bless your houses, your spouses, your children. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless your revenue, your income. May He bless you and make you blessed wherever you may be. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.